Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's Landon Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So we talked Delta last week with you guys. We're talking United. I continue to shake my head with the airlines doing relatively poorly over the last month or so. They haven't really broken out, but TSA data is at record levels. I mean, what's going on with these airlines? Is it just mismanagement? Are you seeing any data that's kind of reflective of the weakness that we've seen going into this earnings report?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right as far as like record travel. 7 of the 10 most busy days in the history of the TSA happened last month. And, everything's pointing towards a record 4th of July once the data comes in. So, yeah, everybody's flying. In fact, when you look at surveys across pretty much every income group, travel is a priority. So people are, they want those experiences and they're willing to fly. So you got to say, all right, so why are these airlines down? I think you could talk a little bit about Boeing, of course, and some of that. But, it's interesting when you look at the data. We've got consumer demand mentions up significantly on a year-over-year basis. Web visits are up 15 points on a year-over-2-year basis. And I think for United, it's up about 5 points on a year-over-year basis. So really strong there. And then, their last earnings report revenue was up about 10% year over year. They've got 7 consecutive earnings beats, 7 consecutive quarters of earnings beats. And you can see here, they're not the winner right now when it comes to visit change on a year over year basis. They're doing okay. I would have expected Delta to be the leader. They're usually the leader in other things, especially happiness. But United is doing fairly well here, despite again all the potential headlines when it comes to Boeing. They have increased their revenue per seat mile by 0.6%. Capacity's up 9%. Their traffic's up 9%, and their fuel costs are down 13%. So you would think that the stock should be up. So it's interesting that it's not. The data that we've got is actually kind of contrarian to the stock chart, right? We see this as more of an opportunity despite, again, you got low happiness levels here. You've always got low happiness when it comes to airlines, but Delta is kind of your could-be group, right? This is what you could be if you're running things really smoothly and you got happy customers. So the fact that everyone's kind of lagging behind them is not a surprise. Historically, it's always been Delta and Southwest at the very top. Southwest lost that spot over the last couple of years through some problems, and now it's just Delta's kind of the lone spot up top on happiness. So it's not, it's kind of just normal with United. I don't think people love it, but one thing that they are actually doing to increase consumer happiness is kind of interesting. Is they're on the app, they're sending their customers radar maps to help them understand why they're delayed, right? As opposed to just saying, hey, you're delayed, check back in an hour. It's like, here's what it looks like in Chicago. That's why we're delayed, because we're connecting in there and all that kind of stuff. So, if you understand, you're more likely to be less frustrated. But overall, it's tough. I mean, you see what's happening this week. I mean, they sold off a couple weeks ago, and now they're kind of bouncing back up. All of them are right ahead of earnings here for United. So I wish that bounce wasn't happening, because we're pretty bullish going into this report. Without this bounce, this is muting us just a little bit, but still fairly bullish, just based on a lot of the consumer demand data, a lot of the traffic data coming from TSA. The happiness is starting to creep up. Despite all of the potential Boeing fallout. But overall, the consumer demand, the web visits, everything's kind of pointing to a little bit of a rebound for United. And I wish this bump up here would be saved for Thursday instead of today.
Landon, you mentioned the reason why some of these stocks, these airline stocks, are lower during your presentation, which is capacity. And the airline stocks, their overall value, they hate added capacity, and they punish these stocks whenever they add capacity. And you said they added a bunch of capacity. Delta Airlines did it as well. They make more money. Here's the thing about United Airlines, though. They continue to get more and more healthy. I think you're going to see a beat and a raise. I think you're going to see a stock buyback this time. They won't do a dividend because the PE is so low that they're going to buy back stock here, in my opinion, because their balance sheet's just getting too good. And they do it different than other, they're big international. They're more like Delta than, say, Southwest. They've got a better balance sheet than American. This is now the number 2 airline behind Delta, and it's a pretty close. Their balance sheet gets better and better, but when you add capacity, ask me why, they punish the stock, Landon.
Right, I agree. And it's interesting. You're talking about a beat and a raise. I mean, that would make 8 quarters in a row. I mean, you bet on the company that's doing well, and they've continued to do well. They're popping here today a little bit, 4%. But what's interesting is, when you're talking about trading it, the expected move is pretty low. I mean, we're talking about like a 6 or 7%, I think, expected move on this stock. It's all, it's not quite there making that today, but it's making a big portion of that today. And if you look at the stock chart, if you look at the last 4 moves, I mean, this thing can way outpace that, right? It has had some serious moves in the past. So I like the, the bet of, well, maybe it beats really big, right? Maybe the reaction's really strong. Normally I love to sell premium, but in this case, it feels like the market maker move is just a little bit underpriced. Now, again, today's move, I hate being bullish on betting on a big move, and the day before you get a move in that direction. I'd rather go the other way. So you're taking away a little bit of the juice here. But overall, LikeFolio data is pointing up for sure, especially just considering where the stock has done over the last few weeks. Today I don't like, but last few weeks is setting up for the potential for a strong beat.
Yeah, and Delta's earnings last week, that stock fell. United fell in conjunction with that, so maybe that's already built in. All right, great stuff, great data as always, Landon. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio, breaking down UAL. Kevin, Delta.